WWDC is just about 1 week away, and I'm personally very excited for it, as this is said to be one of Apple's biggest events in their history. There are 6 announcements that are basically confirmed at this point, so here's everything to expect from all of them. Oh, and yes, I do have the flu, so apologies for my voice. Okay, so the first announcement is going to be iOS 17, and this is probably going to be the most exciting one for most of you, as all of you with an iPhone will get to enjoy some new features. Speaking of new features, there are a number of major ones coming. There's set to be a new control center that could bring some nice quality of life improvements, some big updates to the lock screen once again that would now give us the ability to share the lock screen with our friends, which is awesome. And then also have live Apple Music lyrics displayed directly on the lock screen, as well as the ability to adjust the font size. There's apparently also going to be a journaling app made by Apple that would allow users to keep track of their daily lives and also track their mood throughout the day. You'll also be able to preserve your voice in case you lose your ability to speak, like, in my case right now, by recording 150 sentences, and then your iPhone will use that to synthesize an AI version of your voice. Pretty cool. Then the Wallet app is also getting some updates with a navigation bar and also the ability to store more items. Now, a really interesting update is said to be some sort of Apple Home mode for when your iPhone is charging. So likely similar to what happens when you put a Pixel phone on the official Pixel wireless charger. You get this Nest Hub UI, which allows you to see all of your home accessories and control them from there. We have seen rumors of Apple working on a HomePod with a display attached to it to compete with Google's Nest Hub and Amazon's Alexa Echo. So it could be that this is Apple's way of trialing that functionality early. And of course, we're also getting that big sideloading update in Europe, which will allow us to install apps from outside of the App Store. What this means for us is that we'll be able to install apps such as Fortnite, the Xbox xCloud, GeForce Now, and more, and get a much better experience than the web streaming versions of those apps. And what this means for developers is that they won't have to pay that 15% to 30% Apple tax anymore. Now, these are the main iOS 17 updates. Of course, there's way more updates, so if you want us to make a separate video going through like 20 or so updates, then do leave a comment down below. Now, the second thing to expect at WWDC is iPadOS 17. And here, the main update is said to be lock screen customization. By this I mean the ability to add widgets, the ability to change the wallpaper whenever we want with ease, essentially the same lock screen experience that the iPhone got last year with iOS 16. For some reason, the iPad is a year behind, like the app library and the on-screen widgets also came a year late on the iPad, but hey, at least we're getting those features. Speaking of getting features, the Health app is also apparently coming to the iPad. I actually do use the Health app quite a lot on my iPhone to keep track of my sleep and my overall fitness. So the fact that I'll be able to do this on the iPad on its much bigger display that can also display more data is pretty neat. Not much else aside from some of the new features that the iPhone will also be getting, such as the updated control center, the journaling app, and sideloading. Okay, number 3, we have watchOS 10. And this is actually expected to be a huge update, like a total overhaul kind of update. More specifically, the app library page is said to be completely redesigned. Rather than this ocean of app circles that we have now, the app library is said to be getting folders and also widgets. So the app library would now look more similar to how a home screen looks like on the iPhone, with the ability to have multiple pages and then organize our pages however we like. I think this update will be very well received. I almost never use the app library on my Apple Watch at all, just because it tends to be quite difficult finding the app that I want. So what I do instead is I pin my apps on the side button and then I access them from there. Now, with this update, I think I'll start using the app library almost exclusively. Speaking of cool events like WWDC, last week I had the opportunity to do something truly special. I went to the Ferrari HQ in Maranello, Italy. And while I was there, not only did I get to go to the Ferrari Museum and see some of the most iconic cars in human history, but I also got to meet Charles Leclerc, alongside a bunch of truly interesting people. And all of this, including the cap that was signed by Charles Leclerc, was made possible thanks to Bitdefender, who sponsored my whole trip. Bitdefender is the global cybersecurity partner of Ferrari. So if you watch F1, you'll get to see Bitdefender's branding in multiple places, such as the helmet and the halo, the two most crucial elements that protect the driver's safety. Bitdefender have now announced that they're expanding their partnership with Ferrari to provide their advanced threat intelligence to Ferrari's corporate team. to protect them from malware, exploits, and much more. And of course, since Bitdefender is a Romanian company, I, as a Romanian myself, am very proud of what they've been able to achieve, especially with their partnership with Ferrari. Learn more about this unique partnership and about Bitdefender by using the link below. And thanks again to Bitdefender for sponsoring this video and this incredible experience. At number 4, we have macOS 14. And here, we've literally had no leaks at all. So we're expecting this macOS release to be very minor, focusing mostly on bug fixes and performance improvements, and maybe adding some of those iOS apps such as the Health app and the new journaling app. In terms of what this macOS version would be called, there are actually 50 names that haven't been used out of all the California landmarks that Apple has trademarked. I'm gonna put my money on either Redwood or Sequoia for the next macOS, but we'll see. So now on to the fun part, the actual hardware releases. And as you all know, WWDC is supposed to be a software-only event targeted at developers, but sometimes there are some hardware announcements too. And this year we're expecting 2 hardware announcements. The first one being the 15-inch MacBook Air. This has been rumored for quite some time, and the idea is that this will be a larger version of the current 13-inch MacBook Air. So what this means is that we'll get the same M2 chip, not the M3, with a larger 13-inch screen, a larger battery, a more powerful charger, better speakers, and potentially a new color too. I think this laptop would be amazing for those who travel a lot and do a lot of work on the go. Having a large screen display in a super light and thin form factor with great performance, great battery life, will be a game changer for those people. And considering that Apple has ramped up production for this 15-inch Air recently, a WWDC announcement is looking extremely likely, something that Mark Gurman has also stated. And lastly, we have the thing that I'm personally the most excited for, and that is the Apple headset. Headset leaks have been coming in literally on the daily, so there's a ton of stuff to talk about, but the main thing that you need to know is that the chance of the headset actually being shown at WWDC is pretty much 100% at this point. And I'm not necessarily saying this because of Apple's latest WWDC event tease, which seems to show an animated lens, or even because of Tim Cook's recent interviews where he has actually pointed at maybe an upcoming VR product. I'm saying this because Apple has now invited a number of VR creators to the Apple event. So Ian Hamilton, editor of Upload VR, Norman Chan, a popular face in the VR community, amongst others. In fact, in 2019, when Apple announced their TV Plus service, they've invited directors and Hollywood media reporters to the event. So it is pretty clear that based on this, the headset is coming. And so is its software, XROS, which is now being trademarked by Apple alongside other keywords such as deep screen, like referring to one of its key features. Speaking of features, Apple has shown their headsets to a bunch of people in the industry, and the reactions have been very positive, with people saying that this is the best and most advanced headset that they've ever seen. Even Oculus founder Palmer Luckey said that Apple's headset is really good. Likely that he got a private viewing too. So things are definitely looking promising here. It seems to be a truly one-of-a-kind experience, which does make sense considering the hardware that's inside of it with 2 processors, an M2, and then another chip that's also based on the M2, solely for image processing. Add that to the super high-resolution 4K micro LED displays, more than a dozen cameras for tracking your movements and your face, and the only thing stopping the headset from being successful is of course going to be that price. Its rumored retail price is said to be between $2,500 to $3,000, but its manufacturing cost is said to be around $1,500 based on the bill of materials that recently got leaked. So I don't know, I just find it odd how Apple wants to make a gigantic up to 100% profit on the headset when it is so obvious that this would have a massive negative impact on its future. Just as I mentioned in our last video, if Apple sells this headset for a really high price, then very few people would buy it. And if very few people buy it, then very few developers would be enticed to make apps for it. And if very few developers make apps for it, then people won't buy it. So it's kind of like a vicious circle here. Apparently Apple was considering selling the headset at a loss first, but then decided not to. And I think that this was genuinely a huge mistake. If Apple had this priced at, let's say, $1,500, as much as it costs to make, then they would be making their money through the apps. And the second generation of the device, of course, kind of like Sony does with their PlayStation 5. Initially, they were selling it at a loss and then making money through the games. But now it seems like Apple might be dooming the entire future of this headset just because they want to chase profits as much as possible. Still, I'm really excited to see what this headset is capable of. And definitely stay tuned for a dedicated video on the headset where we'll go into much more detail. I'm Daniel, this means ZONEofTECH, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.